Welcome to Normal Island Live on what's a very cold Wednesday afternoon. And apologies for the delay. I know we are a bit late, but we're coming through to you with what I think is going to be a great show. I'm Ben Mclaine, and I am very grateful to be joined by the wonderful Harry, aka Champagne Socialist.
Hi Ben,
How
how
are
are
you
you?
doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. We were just off stage discussing how Lee Anderson is sort of like a very bad version of Martin Lewis, money saving expert
Yeah,
with the 30p meals thing.
yeah,
Um,
no, I can't believe his 30p meals have never caught on. If he ever loses his seat, he knows what industry he needs to go into. He's actually
exactly.
my role model for International Men's Day today.
Yes.
Some of the meals that he's been able to put together, absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
Just put grit and determination. Yes.
Yes. I'd imagine the meals probably are largely grit.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
who knows? I like.
Okay, sorry, let's do this then. Don't forget that Harry and I will be responding to your comments and questions at the end, so do drop them into the chat. But coming up on tonight's show, the cruel policies of Shabana Mahmood, built on sand, sustained by vice signalling. Trump panics about the Epstein files, the right keeps attracting predators, and International Men's Day. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. As ever, please don't forget to like and share the stream and become a subscriber. It really helps us out, and you can help us grow by visiting turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work by becoming a YouTube member. Let's go on to our first story. I am pissed off. And I'm mostly pissed off with this woman, Shabana Mahmood, because this week she announced the most vile, vice signalling, vindictive asylum policies that I've seen slither out of this utter swamp that is the Labour Party in 2025. It's not a party I recognise from 7 years ago. Like, it just isn't. They leaked information to The Sun as they were going for a target audience of low information freaks who love the idea of punishing innocent refugees. A lot of this comes from a model used by Denmark, where they were doing things like taking jewelry away from refugees. Of course, Labour have since denied that they're actually going to follow through and do that.
We know that Britain is seen as a golden ticket, that people want to get to our country. Of course, we're the best country in the world. That doesn't surprise us. But they also think that they are going to be able to access the welfare system, access housing. So what we're going to be doing this afternoon, the Home Secretary is going to be setting out the biggest changes to the asylum system in modern times that are going to reduce those reasons for people to come here illegally. They're going to make it easier for us to remove people who have no legitimate right to be here, including foreign criminals, and are going to allow us to establish safe and legal routes so that people don't have to come across Europe, don't have to come across the Channel. And this is going to be a really significant package designed at changing that exact challenge that you talk about.
I was reading the Sun this morning. They say that valuables like jewellery, watches, cars will be taken and sold to pay towards accommodation costs. Is that true? Are you taking jewellery from people arriving?
I wouldn't read too far ahead of what the Home Secretary is going to say. She's going to be making that announcement later in terms of how the policy will operate.
This is in the Sun this morning. It's obviously been briefed, right?
But let me say the principle here. At the moment, the British public pay billions of pounds a year so that those seeking asylum or those who've already failed in their applications can be supported in their accommodation and their living. It is right that if people have money in the bank, if people have assets like cars, like e-bikes, they should be contributing. No, we're not going to be taking people's heirlooms off them at the border, but we do want, there's an individual, for example, who's getting £800 a month sent to him. He's got himself an Audi. People have cars, people have e-bikes. If those are assets, they should contribute to the cost of their living.
So are you taking jewellery off then? If it's, I'm not talking about wedding rings, but someone's got like a nice ring or a nice necklace, so you can take that off them.
That I do want to stress that people should wait for the Home Secretary to fully detail the policy.
Question, and I think what people have appreciated about Shabana Mahmood is she's been quite direct on this stuff. Like, she's told us what she's doing. She's taken us with them. So what is the answer?
In the instance you're talking about, no, of course not. Okay. What we're saying, though, if someone comes over with a bag full of gold rings, well, that's different to, as I say, a family heirloom or personal items. No, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
They don't even have the balls to be honest about it. And I think one of the things that frustrated me about that clip, and one of the reasons I wanted to play, is because he said, oh, will they get the impression that they'll have access to the welfare system? Yeah, people who have nothing get access to welfare in this country because, I don't know, we're not like America. We're not a country that completely disregards people and leaves them on the street. We're not living in Victorian Britain. We're not living in medieval times. Fuck it. Like, of course they have access to the welfare system, and so they should. Like, how many refugees do you know that are arriving across the channel on e-scooters or with a BMW tucked under their arm when they're getting off the boats? Like, how much footage have you seen of people getting off the boats with an Audi A1 tucked under their arm? Like, nobody's doing that. A bag full of gold rings. Like, refugees sell everything they have to get to safety, and we have twerpy loser politicians like this telling us that we need a confiscation scheme to take all their bags of gold rings that they're apparently carrying across. I know what they were thinking. Like, I understand the strategy that Labour was going for here. Labour thought they were being really smart. They wanted the headline from The Sun, Labour are getting tough on refugees, and then they get to soften the policy when they do their, like, little morning media circuit the next day. But the headline is already out there. In 2005, that would have been an amazing political strategy. But it's 2025. We have social media and a government which has a reputation for lying to us about how progressive they are. Like, I don't trust them not to take people's family heirlooms. I know they're denying that's what they're going to do, but I don't trust them not to just follow through and do it, because it might look good. It might impress some of the people who are fawning over Nigel Farage and never going to pay any attention to this Labour government. When Denmark implemented this policy, by the way, they were also unable to confiscate jewellery from asylum seekers without public uproar. By the way, the party that implemented this literally a few days ago lost I think it was the Copenhagen mayoralty to the Green Party, to their left. The same thing that's happening with Keir Starmer. Also, I've heard people say it. I heard it on Navarra the other day. It led to a 40% fall in asylum applications in Denmark. So it clearly does work. You need some sort of deterrent. Okay, I really disagree with this. So this is what that looks like visually. Have a look at this. Most asylum applications in Denmark come from Syria and the surrounding regions. Now, what events were happening at the time of that big spike that you can see in the blue there? That big spike in the region, what was going on in the region of Syria at that time? Well, you had the Syrian civil war, and you had the rise of ISIS, which both began in that period around 2011 to 2014, where that spike begins. So what about the end of that big drop? Well, the big drop starts in 2016 and continues through 2017. Now, to quote the Woodrow Wilson Center for International Scholars, at its height, the Islamic State, known as ISIS, or Daesh, held about a third of Syria and 40% of Iraq. By December 2017, it had lost 95% of its territory, including its two biggest properties, Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, and the northern Syrian city of Raqqa, its nominal capital. Now, I can't say for certain that the fall of ISIS is what caused the fall in asylum applications to Denmark, but I'm saying that there are more factors than how nasty they were willing to be to innocent refugees. It was really unpopular in Denmark. It was really, like, stupidly done. There's so many better explanations, I think, for why that fall came about than, oh, well, it's because they were just so nasty to refugees that refugees stopped coming here, or coming to Denmark. Now, bear in mind, at its peak, Denmark took 22,000 asylum applications, right? That was the peak of that spike that you saw. There's no reason to think that it will work the same way if you scale it up to the UK. Last year alone, the UK had around 110,000 asylum applications. That's quite a lot more. Like, even if you believe it's a good deterrent, there's no reason to believe that it would scale up to somewhere like the UK. Helena, No Justice MTG, pointed out the other day that also the UK is an ex-colonial power. A lot of countries speak our language when they don't speak Danish. They don't trade in the same currency as Denmark, even, because, like, the UK and our cultural output is so much more recognized around the world, and so there's going to be so many more people traveling to the UK because they're from countries that were previously colonized by Great Britain. Denmark is a very different situation. It really is. People are going to have less cultural ties there. But it wasn't just confiscating jewelry that Shabana Mahmood proposed, right? Asylum seekers will also have to be reassessed every 2 years and won't be eligible for settled status until 20 years have gone by. Not only is this cruel and destabilizing, but it will be ridiculously expensive to keep reassessing these people every 2 years. the cost of the asylum process will go up. And what do you think happens to your voter base then? Like, do you think reform voters are going to go, oh, well, the asylum process just got a load more expensive, but that's okay? No, they're not. That's not going to win them over either. Also, countries that refuse to grant returns agreements, like the Congo, will be refused visas under Shabana Mahmoud's new proposals. So, tyrannical regimes will be punished by denying their victims another method of escape. Right? A visa path is another method of escape for the victims of like militias in the Congo. Like, it's another method of getting out and getting to safety. And you're punishing these regimes for not complying with your returns agreements by punishing the potential victims of that regime. It seems to me a completely wild policy. It is just at the end of the day cruelty and stupidity. Like, it's spineless from a pathetic Labour Party at this point. I think actually that I'm going to propose something, and maybe I'll clip this later on because I think it's worth potentially clipping. I think that if we're going to make refugees pay for their accommodation by giving up their assets, I think we should make MPs pay for their expenses by giving up their assets. Shabana Mahmood wears like a quite nice gold looking. It looks quite nice gold pendant. Like, if she wears a watch that's too expensive, I think the taxpayer should just be able to. We can have that to pay your expenses. By the way, Shabana Mahmood pays thousands each month in rent from her expenses for accommodation. You can look it up. It's about like 1,800 or something like that that she claims in order to pay for her accommodation. Right? If she gets that and she's doing it on the taxpayer dime, she's already got a wage. She's already got assets. No, let's take some of her fucking assets. Let's take some of her jewelry. Let's start taking MPs' expensive watches when they wander about Parliament with them to make sure that they're paying their way and paying for their expenses. Like, I don't want I just don't want the taxpayer to be fleeced. And if we're gonna like impose this on the weakest people in our society, if we're going to impose this on refugees, let's have that same fucking energy for the MPs who take the piss with their expenses. All right, if you want to claim, say, let's set the bar nice and low. If you want to claim more than £100 a year in expenses, I think you should have to give up your family jewelry. Like, we'll let you keep your heirlooms, but we'll be the ones who determine what an heirloom is, right? I think that's a fair system. I think that makes sense. It's just the political stupidity of this, right? Because if it's unsuccessful, if this policy is unsuccessful, you'll have a generation of immigrants. Remember that immigrants are more likely to have children, immigrants and immigrant children who will grow up hating Labour for destabilising their family and destabilising their life, right? Those people will eventually become citizens who will eventually come on to vote, and they will despise the Labour Party. They will never vote for them again, right? That's one scenario. That's if it's unsuccessful and the immigrants stay here. If the immigrants don't stay here and they're forced elsewhere, and we do manage to lower immigration as though that should be a goal, really, well, lowering immigration means a poorer economy because we have birth rates that are below replacement level, right? Immigrants prop up our economy. Immigrants are net contributors to our economy. So we're going to see an economic fall if this policy is successful. And who do you think they're going to blame for that economic fall? Do you think they're not going to blame Labour? Of course they are. So whichever way this goes for Labour, whether it's unsuccessful or successful, they're utterly screwed. It's entirely ridiculous. And either way, they're just going to normalise the far right. All of this is just normalising far right rhetoric. I apologise for going on a bit of a rant. Harry, I could ask you all sorts of questions about this, but right now, I just want to know how angry you are, because, man, I'm fucking pissed.
So I saw that policy announced, I think it was on Sunday, about the taking the jewelry. And I was out Monday evening. So when all those announcements were coming in, the video I posted was made about 3-4 hours in advance of that announcement. And I knew it was a bit of a gamble because I thought if there are certain things that aren't included, then it's going to look incredible. And then when I was reading the things that were coming through whilst I was out, and I was like, they're actually going ahead with this sort of stuff. The jewelry thing is, as people have pointed out, Zach Polanski, for example, has pointed out, very reminiscent of Nazi policy, where gold and other valuables were taken from the victims of the Shoah and melted down, turned into ingots to be traded with neutral countries by the Nazis. Shabana Mahmood, being of British Pakistani heritage as well, will know full well how significant gold is within those communities. So the fact that stuff like that is being taken is incredibly despicable. And I just think, what's this for? I don't. You kind of, it's one of those policies where like it can't be as bad as it's going to sound, and it's not, because it's worse. I've just had enough. Sick to the back teeth of politicians always banging on about immigration, and they say, well, we talk about it a lot because it's what the public are interested in. And it's like, well, that's because that's all you go on about. It's all the media goes on about, all the politicians go on about. That's all you blame for the reasons this country is shit. If the government started blaming pink fluffy socks for the reason public services didn't run, we'd see a lot of discourse about pink fluffy socks. It's ridiculous. And I think any Labour MPs that you see at the moment who are expressing their concerns and making it clear that they don't agree with these policies, my mother has an amazing saying called "piss or get off the pot," and I think Labour MPs need to start doing that. Vote with your feet, leave the Labour Party, join the Green Party, join your party, just get out. Because what is the point? You're tied to this project. And I'd already argue, given the stuff that Labour have already done up to this point, you guys are kind of compromised anyway. But at this point, just try and save some sort of credibility. So when things continue to go bad, you can at least say that there was a cutoff point for yourself. And I don't really know what else to say, but hopefully MPs start defecting. But the fact that I think we only saw like 9 to maybe like 15 speak out against it, and there's like 320 Labour MPs, something like that, maybe 326, a little bit more. Doesn't give me a lot of hope. And we know that a lot of the MPs within Labour are, neoliberal careerists who are only really out it to make sure that in 2029 they can get a cushy job in the private sector again. But I'm not that optimistic. But I just hope that there are at least some good souls within the party still that can hopefully find their conscience and leave and do something good with their status as MPs.
Yeah, like a week or so ago, I thought like, oh, Labour are catching on. They've realised that they're losing to the Greens. They're starting to sound a bit more progressive in some areas, and not anything wild, but I thought, oh, they've seen the iceberg. They've seen the iceberg ahead. And then I turned around, and Shabana Mahmood was on the deck of the Titanic, and she was like cementing her boots into the deck of the Titanic, and going, no, this is where I want to be. I want to be in this ship when it goes down.
And I think the other thing as well is the way that she's weaponized her status as a child of immigrants. So am I. You're not special. You don't see me rallying against immigration. This is what you always find with children of immigrants who are anti-immigration or express stronger immigration controls. For them, the cutoff point was never before their family settled here. They're advocating for policies that, had they been in place when their families were moving over here, would have been scuppered. I don't know if you remember the changes a few months back about being able to speak English to A level standard.
Yeah, wild.
Did Shabana's parents do that when they moved over here? I don't know. Does she know? It boils my piss so much, and particularly what I've noticed ever since 2019, ever since Sajid Javid became the Home Secretary, and then you think Preeti Patel, Suella Braverman, Shabana Mahmood now. It is the use of governments, whether they be Tory or Labour, putting British brown people at the dispatch box to announce policies that they know full well that if a white person was saying it, people would see it as being racist, discriminatory, and wrong. But because it is those people are there essentially to make white English racists feel comfortable. And they go, well, how can it be racist? They're agreeing with it. They're the ones pushing it ahead. It's like they're just a messenger. And I do look forward to reading the book that Shabana Mahmood releases post 2029 when she loses her seat, how she didn't really want to do all of that stuff. And then also to see her at Labour conference about what Labour can do to win the next election. But I've just quite frankly had enough of all of them. I mean, I haven't been a member of the party for nearly 2 years now, and I can't say I regret it because.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who regrets leaving the Labour Party.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I know. I think it was like I'd always meant to leave it. And I've been slagging them off for like months before that, but then it was just like I didn't know how to leave. It was very complicated. I mean, my Google Mail inbox seems to think I'm still a member. I keep getting emails from them, but it is just it's just ridiculous. Sorry, I do apologize using the term slagging off. That was I should have used it.
Yeah, I had somebody argue with me actually about the Holocaust comparison, because I was like, both my degrees in Third Reich history. A lot of people in the channel know that already, but I had people come back to me and go, well, it's an illegitimate comparison because these people are illegal. And it's like, you fundamentally don't understand. Like, the comparison is that these people are having their jewelry taken off them as displaced people in order to quote unquote pay for their upkeep. Like, this is the same excuse that was being used, right?
Calling people asylum seekers, refugees illegal. Nowhere in the UN Refugee Convention does it state that seeking asylum is illegal. It is not illegal to seek asylum. The only way you can claim asylum in this country is by being on British soil. So if there are no ways else, that's the only way that you can do it. And typically an illegal immigrant refers to someone who overstays a visa, for example. That's an illegal immigrant. So there are probably a lot of English people in Australia who fit that criteria. Same in parts of Southeast Asia as well. I'm sure there's people in this country that fit that criteria as well. But the people that are crossing over on the via the channel are not illegal. It's not illegal to seek asylum. And every time people say this to me, I would say, show me in the UN Refugee Convention where it states what you are saying.
Yeah,
and I know it because I've read it, and most of the people I'm talking to don't even know it exists. So it's just past the point. I mean, I was about to say I'm past the point caring. I do care a lot because I know how it looks to the rest of the world. And again, I mean, it is a Nazi-esque policy. And you would think, given that the Holocaust is one of the only atrocities and genocides of its kind that is taught extensively in UK schools, and it's one of the only genocides that we are routinely told to never forget, that people would be aware of the optics of a policy like that and the inevitable comparisons that would be made. So clearly, though, but as we know, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. So it's... What can we do?
I also get the accusation a lot. I had on GB News that the 2023 Illegal Migration Act made traveling via that method illegal, and it's like, but the 1951 Refugee Convention overrides that. It's Article 31 of the 1951 Refugee Convention. It makes any of that kind of travel retrospectively legal. I do have to go on, but I'm sure we'll chat about this in the comments section as well, because we've got to go on to the second story of the evening. Otherwise, we'll be going all night. So let's go on. It has been a rough few days for Donald Trump, and the anger has been showing in his mannerisms.
Venezuela's first president. What did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago. It's really, what did he mean when he spent all the time with Bill Clinton, with the president of Harvard, you know, that is Summers, Larry Summers, whatever his name is, and all of the other people that he spent time with. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years. But he also saw strike because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself. Give me a break. You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan shares.
Sir,
Yeah, Jennifer,
there's
go ahead.
nothing incriminating in the file, sir? Why
Quiet,
acting as a
quiet, begin.
Venezuela's serving?
Quiet, piggy. Is that what Bill Clinton said to you when you were getting to know him? Yes, after long delays, Donald Trump was forced to support releasing the Epstein files, which is only going to further drain support from the MAGA movement. At this point, the MAGA movement is looking like it's going to die. Conspiracy theorists absolutely love Epstein conspiracies. And unfortunately for Trump, his base is full of conspiracy theorists who are too stupid to know that they're undermining him. They want to know every detail about Epstein's crimes so that they can expose the deep state. Unfortunately for them, it's become very obvious they're just tanking their own leader. They're just too stupid to realize it. Now, according to CNN, in February 2017, in an email to former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, Epstein wrote of Trump, "I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous." In one exchange with former Obama White House counsel Catherine Rumler, discussing Michael Cohen, Trump's longtime fixer who has flipped on him, Epstein added, "I know how dirty Donald is." You have to be pretty bad to be one of the worst people that Jeffrey Epstein knows. Like, you have to be, like, pretty terrible. That's so embarrassing. And not in a cool kind of edgy way, in a really creepy way. And Trump is not taking it particularly well. As this information emerged, ProPublica also released a report claiming that Trump's White House intervened to protect Andrew Tate. When the Tate brothers arrived by private plane in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they immediately found themselves in the crosshairs of law enforcement once more, as Customs and Border Protection officials seized their electronic devices. This time, they had a powerful ally to come to their aid. Behind the scenes, the White House intervened on their behalf. Interviews and records reviewed by ProPublica show a White House official told senior Department of Homeland Security officials to return the devices to the brothers several days after they were seized. The official who delivered the message, Paul Ingracia, is a lawyer who previously represented the Tate brothers before joining the White House, where he was working at its DHS liaison. In his written request, a copy of which was reviewed by ProPublica, Ingracia chided authorities for taking the action, saying the seizure of Tate's devices was not a good use of time or resources. The request to return the electronics to the Tates, he emphasized, was coming from the White House, from Donald Trump. Trump can't help himself. He has to come to the aid and defense of anyone accused of a sex crime. And this is a really bad look when the bloated old creep is facing the release of the Epstein files this week as well. In order to get the full files released, it will have to go through the Senate, but the Senate, just earlier today, I believe like a few hours ago, has passed a unanimity, what's basically a unanimity motion, which means as soon as it goes to the Senate, so I think it's called a unanimous consent motion. Basically, as soon as it goes to the Senate, it just gets passed straight through. No one has to vote on it because they've already sort of like preemptively voted on it. So they're not going to make any amendments. They're just going to pass it through onto Donald Trump's desk, and he's going to have to write possibly the most painful signature that he's ever written in his life, signing his own the death warrant of his political career. It'll have to go through that Senate, but there's such universal momentum in favor of their release that it's probably going to happen now. And I think Donald Trump and his supporters and those who like understand at the top of the regime, they know this is happening, so they've stopped pretending to resist. And they're like, well, if I resist more, it's just going to look even worse. But another name also came up in those emails that will be of interest to people in the in the UK. According to the Mirror, paedophile Jeffrey Epstein supported far-right activist Tommy Robinson and traded grotesque Holocaust jokes in private emails now released by US lawmakers. "Tommy Robinson, good work," the child sex offender wrote to an unnamed figure in one message, celebrating the activist's release from jail in 2018. That's right, Epstein was a Tommy Robinson fan. Andrew Tate, Jimmy Savile, and Jeffrey Epstein. Why does the right wing keep attracting the worst sex criminals of their generation? Like, could it maybe be that a philosophy that centers individualism and a disregard for the marginalized encourages you to disregard like basic morality and concern for the well-being of others. Well, what do we think, Harry? What could attract someone like Epstein to Tommy Robinson?
Well, I mean, you only have to look at his recent trips to Tel Aviv to maybe get an idea of why someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who was pictured wearing the hoodie of the Israeli Defense Forces, might have some interest. I know that there's a lot of links to him potentially being an agent of Mossad. Hopefully, my boiler doesn't blow up later. I mean, it's one of those situations where everything that's coming out about it, it's like this sentence would never have made sense like a day ago. It is, I mean, the whole stuff about Clinton and Trump, and I know people say it was fake news and stuff like this. It's like, look, if Americans within the MAGA movement can believe that the election was stolen, I can believe that happened between Trump and Clinton. And you know what? I think it's pretty harmless in terms of, sorry. But the thing is, I don't think anything is actually going to happen. I feel like they'll be released and that they won't actually, nothing will really sort of come of it, because I think we've kind of proven. I mean, this would put actually Trump's theory to the test. Do you remember at the start of his political career when he said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and he wouldn't lose any votes? No one's getting shot, but I feel like this is going to be something of a similar case. And let's face it, those files are going to be heavily redacted. And I think we've already proven that they are trying to defend it. I don't know if you saw Megyn Kelly the other day on, I think, some sort of radio show where she tried to explain how Jeffrey Epstein wasn't actually a paedophile because he liked barely legal girls. And it's like, well, barely legal doesn't mean anything, that they're a child. He raped children. And there's a very good reason no one ever delves into the technicalities of being a piece of shit like that, because when you do it, you sound like a paedophile. Mm-hmm. And it is utterly ridiculous that this is where... And also I think what's also very interesting is this is a political movement that has smeared anyone who is gay, trans, lesbian, bisexual as being a groomer simply for just existing. And yet they are now defending someone who is accused of some of the most grotesque crimes anyone can commit. And if that doesn't tell you who these people are, I quite frankly do not know what will.
Yeah, I did watch the Megyn Kelly thing. And what was really insane to me was she was like making out like, oh, he's not a paedophile, he's like a phebophile, I think the term is.
I feel like it's a term that we shouldn't even need to know.
I've never bothered to learn the term because, like,
I mean, like it's you shouldn't. No one. We shouldn't be making these unless you are a psychologist or like this is that's the thing. No one should be making those.
Yeah, like who's making those decisions? But what was really funny is she went, "Oh yeah, well, as I understand it, he was into the barely legal type." And then the next words to come out of her mouth, I was going to be like. I was thinking, okay, barely legal. She's misunderstood what barely legal means. Because barely legal, that means legal. That means like someone who is 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And that's what the barely legal category generally
it's on the
means.
Other side of the,
right? That's the wrong side, Megyn. And then I was like, okay, she's got the wrong side. And then she went, yeah, like 15. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Americans just fucking no. I mean, no, they
don't care. Like they genuinely don't care. Right. Like the thing is that they've kind of proven at this point they can say whatever shit they like, and people will lap it up. I mean, like we saw that during COVID, the election conspiracies. Another thing I would say about those emails is that conspiracy theorists, I think, have been completely muddied by it, because for decades you've had all this idea that there's this group of satanic paedophiles that are speaking to each other in code and meeting up in these secluded locations to commit all manner of unspeakable horrors. And you read these emails and they're literally like, yeah, me and so are going to be here at this time, at this day, at this address, like come through, bring so-and-so. And it's like, they didn't really, like, I don't know whether they did that because they knew that if that stuff came out, like obviously everyone involved in it would be implicated in some sort of way, but also maybe they didn't think they were going to get caught. It is just like conspiracy. Conspiracy theorists think have really kind of balls that one up because clearly these pedophiles do not care about being caught.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're in the the paedophile category, but I do think it's funny how there's a similar thing of like, oh well. there's a secret group of elites who control the government. And then I like watched Trump's inauguration, and like fucking Mike Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and one of the others was like they were all like lined up at the front of his inauguration. I'm like,
Where they all went to.
that's not such a secret.
It's where they all went to Trump before he got re-elected, before he got inaugurated as president again, almost like barons pledging fealty to their new king,
Kissing the
at
ring.
Mar-a-Lago. It's but yeah, I mean, with all of this sort of stuff, but like I've said, I feel like we're at the point now where even when all of this stuff comes out and everyone knows everything, I don't feel like anything actually will happen. I mean, I think they'll try, but I can't see it. I think maybe I'm being a cynic here, but I would be very surprised if he is not still the president this time next year. Because it to me, it's just like he's just going to go, yeah. Like, I mean, this is the thing. Like, this guy is kind of untouchable, really. Trump.
Yeah,
he can. I mean, you would have thought after he. I mean, like, this guy is already a criminal. He's already legally recognized as being a criminal. But even after the Jan the 6th situation, that would have been any other country. That would have been like you're done. I mean, like, Boris Johnson wasn't even allowed to come back after hosting afters in number 10. So it's I just can't see anything in the way of like real change coming forward. And what we have to remember very clearly is the victims in all of this. These young girls that were serially abused by very wealthy, powerful people, who, let's face it, are not going to get the real justice that they deserve, because no one really wants to hold these people accountable. And that is that's the worst thing that out of all of this, that there's going to be women of all ages who have been serially abused by these people, and they're not going to get that. I mean, look at with Epstein, for example. Some of them got their day in court, but not all of them did, because obviously he was. We can't say he was killed, can we? He took his own life, and even with a lot of these other people, I very much doubt that any real justice will happen. And that is the thing that I think is the worst part about all of this.
Yeah, like I think that you're right. I think he's going to maintain his place at the top of the party, but I also think that unfortunately, I think unfortunately he's going to maintain that place. However, I also think that he's going to lose so much support over this. Like, I think his movement is done.
He'll hemorrhage a lot of support, but even if he gets impeached again for the third time, I mean, that's got to be a record, right?
True.
Third time impeachment, going for the three-peat. I don't think he would be impeached anyway, because let's face it, there's going to be a lot of very wealthy, powerful people on both sides of the political aisle that are going to be implicated in all of this in the United States, and they will do their bit to make sure. Because let's face it, I mean, I've always seen the joke saying that I reckon if a journalist said to Trump, "Is the reason you didn't go to Jeffrey Epstein's island because you weren't rich enough?" that his mind would break, and he would basically just be sitting there. Before you know it, he's got like beer in one hand, cigarette in the other, and he's just there going, and he just tells all. But I mean, even still, like the amount of people on, within the Clintons, for example, Bill Gates isn't there. Sorry, I take that back. But a lot of these individuals, I think it's just we were discussing whether he was going to be on, not me and you, someone else. He's going to get me killed. No, basically, I feel like given the amount of very wealthy, powerful people that on both sides of the political spectrum that are implicated in all of this, I don't see him being impeached. I don't see anything actually happening to him as president. Yeah, he'll lose support, but where he loses support in one area, he'll gain it in another. And I'm sure he can get them all back on board with another harsh immigration bill to do it, because there's nothing the West loves more than being pricks to immigrants.
I think he could get away with it. He could get away with it. But Bill Clinton, I think, could get him to confess all by just tweeting like Donald did a poor job anyway.
that would be
worst one I've ever
It's
had, because like
that means
he wouldn't be
that
able to
the
help himself.
2016 presidential debate was basically Challengers. That was his version of Challengers. He's just sat there watching these two going at it, and it's just like, you think of the the clip from the Diana interview. Like, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it's very crowded.
Yes.
It's just-
Oh my god. Oh, it's like, and that's the thing. It's so uncool, right? We end up laughing at Trump over this,
yeah.
and I think that's the difference between him shooting someone in the street, as the saying goes, that he said.
But that's almost kind of like, I think that'd be worse for him being laughed at, because let's face it, that's kind
Exactly.
of what has started his political career. You think of that White House Correspondents' Dinner back in like 2013, I think it was. It was around the time of like the Bertha conspiracy, and you've basically got all these liberals lining up to basically just take a punt at Trump, and he leaves, and then within 2 years, he's announcing himself as the person who's going to become the next president of the United States, to become the Republican candidate. And like, this is a man that is motivated by hate. And so I feel like the hate will allow him to continue, because that's the kind of person he is.
But like, he can vice signal over shooting somebody. He can be like, deserved it, weakling, whatever. Like he could play that off. He can't vice signal over like being a pedophile or doing whatever he might have done to Bill Clinton.
I mean, it's even the thing, like with a lot of the paedophilia allegations. I mean, like, it's been known for a long time that Trump's got a very weird relationship with young girls, and you can see it for yourself. I mean, the fact that anyone is letting their child go anywhere near Trump, I don't know if you remember when he was signing that bill about banning trans college athletes from competing in women and men's sports, and you got those children surrounding him, and it's like, why would everything that we know about this guy, like, why would you? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
100%.
I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. We should go on, because honestly, me and Harry, like, I really like talking to Harry, so I just end up in a conversation, and I need to remember I'm running a show here. I need to make sure that we're moving the show forward. Look, before we continue, we would like to remind our viewers that we are 5 volunteers keeping the ship going. Some of us are paying more attention to our jobs than others. Sorry, Curtis. We do this around our paid jobs. Our goal is to become full-time, meaning we can increase our content, be far more ambitious, and build a sustainable left-wing alternative. And Curtis can hire some people that will pay attention, unlike me. Your help has made so much difference already, from equipment to covering rallies and interviews. Your support means everything. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for just 99p. Thank you very much. So, without further delay, let's go on to our third and final story. Every International Women's Day, I hear a whole host of men asking, but when is it International Men's Day? Well, that's today, November 19th. The whole of November, by the way, is Men's Mental Health Month. And so often, this isn't even brought up by anyone trying to help men, but by people who just want to attack feminism. Like, literally, the idea of like, but when is International Men's Day, just used to attack feminism in so many cases. Not all cases, but in a lot of cases. Now, according to WRBI Radio, International Men's Day has actually been around longer than most people realize. It began in 1992 when a professor named Thomas Oster first promoted the idea. But it really started gaining traction in 1999 thanks to Dr. Jerome Singh of Trinidad and Tobago. He chose November 19th to honor both his father's birthday and a local youth event that inspired unity and positive male role models. Since then, it's grown into a global observance in more than 80 countries. The mission? Pretty simple. Highlight positive male role models, address men's mental health and physical health, improve gender relations, and promote the idea that being a good man is something worth celebrating. When it comes to positive male role models, I see it a lot. I love the idea of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings being a positive male role model, but I sometimes think that answer is a little bit too vague, because Aragorn isn't quite a human. He's like half elf and super, super good at fighting, and I don't think that's necessarily something that you you look towards for sort of healthy examples of masculinity. Yes, yes, he's calm and everything, but it's easy to be calm when you're winning all the time. Like that's but I think just generally the answer of Aragon to me always feels a bit too vague. He's only on screen for a brief period of time. Now, if you can think of good examples of positive masculinity, whether they be fictional or whether they be real life, disregard what I just said. You can say Aragon if you like. You can say anyone. Do put them in the chat or the comments because I'm actually really interested to read and hear. Personally, I'm a big fan of David Tennant, Mehdi Hassan, Matthew Hussey is a really interesting one. Hosier, Zoran Mamdani, yeah, and Thorin Bradley. You might not know the last one. Thorin Bradley is that guy who like chops wood on TikTok, but he has a really deep understanding of political and social dynamics too. He's just a really interesting, deep, and from what I can tell, like a really lovely person. There's so much that I could recommend we need to do to soften the barriers men face to platonic affection with each other and make more time to make our lives easier, right? So there's a scene in Arcane, which is a brilliant Netflix series. If you haven't seen it, I'm nerding out a little bit, where Jace, one of the main characters, lays with his head in Mel's lap, his lover's lap, and it occurred to me how rare it is to see men being vulnerable like this in their affection on TV, putting themselves in the arms of a woman to be looked after, to be to be to receive affection from a woman. And typically, right, this is the only acceptable way to show straight couples being affectionate. The man has to be centered with the woman like lying into him. Like that's how you show affection in most media right now. But isn't it nice to see it the other way around? That men can be openly affectionate and vulnerable without it defining their whole identity. Jace goes on to do like in other incredible things throughout the show. And another example is who is it? It's that there's someone from House of the Dragon. He's the guy with one eye, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. Aemond, thank you. Harry just said it in my ear. Aemond Targaryen, who also has a couple of scenes where he's at a brothel, and his like chosen method of finding peace or finding affection in that place is laid like with his head over a woman's lap. It's just like very affectionate and like a strange form of affection that we very rarely see portrayed in media towards men. Because men aren't allowed to be vulnerable in that way. Now, of course, that shouldn't define their whole identity. Both Aemond and Jace are strong characters, but that makes the representation all the more important to me. So, just more generally, how can we improve men's mental health? Well, one of the big problems is that men report high levels of loneliness and have very few friends. So, you want to create a society that tackles loneliness. Now, the campaign to end loneliness suggests that we should do this by creating bumping spaces in greener cities that are more walkable. Right? This is socialist policy all over. What about tackling mental well-being in the home? Well, we need to normalize flexible working and a better work-life balance. Things like the 4-day working week, right? Socialist policy. Men, by the way, who help out with the housework produce daughters who generally go on to be higher achievers, according to Dr. Mary Sieghart, who is the author of the book The Authority Gap. If men were allowed to take more time off and had a more equitable relationship with their partner, where we like earn less but contribute more in terms of average domestic labor, and we could do that without being shamed for it, we would have a better life with more stability in our relationships. We would feel less lonely and we would feel less like our dating lives were falling apart. But mentioning our dating lives, what about our dating lives for people who are like single, who haven't yet found a partner? Well, our dating life is generally shit because we have to deal with the effects of other men's bad behavior. If we want a better life, we have to build that life. We have to build that dating life. We have to hold other men accountable. We hold most of the social, economic, and political power in society. So it falls to us to create that world where women feel safer and more ambitious in their dating life. We have to learn things like nonviolent communication and positive bystander intervention, so we know how to keep people around us safe. We need to teach ourselves about the Fry's model of consent and be self-critical. Own up and change if we're treating women differently to the men in our lives, and we all subconsciously do it. Like, I know that I am more comfortable interrupting women than I am men, and I've noticed that, like, even other women are more comfortable doing that, and studies have consistently shown we treat women differently, in ways that they don't deserve, and we need to be owning up to that and going, no, this is something that I need to change, right? We have to support Mankind, who provide mental health support to men, the White Ribbon Campaign, who help to tackle male violence against women and girls, and the Good Lad Initiative, who teach men how to critically deconstruct people like Andrew Tate and why their ideas are just so shit. Because here's the truth for me, right? The biggest misandrists, the biggest enemies of men, our biggest haters, they're not like feminists. They're not blue-haired feminists. They're anti-feminists. They're people like Andrew Tate. People like Andrew Tate who believe in bullshit notions of alpha males and body count. Honestly, that stuff is just like, it's just astrology for men, right? It's assigning characteristics to people based on stuff that they're not in control of and that doesn't affect their like social life at all. It's astrology for men. These people believe that men are just naturally more violent and more sexually violent, and we can't change that, right? People like Andrew Tate, they say, well, you can't do anything about the ridiculous overrepresentation of men in violent statistics. It was a 2013 homicide study found that 95% of homicide is committed by men, right? You can't explain that away, so they end up going, well, it's just because men are stronger. That's why that difference exists. We're just naturally more violent. Their whole philosophy is nothing can get better because men are just bad, and I think that's the most man-hating ideology of all. What That's worse than anything I've heard from like a blue-haired feminist who claims to hate men, because it's saying that we can't change and we can't be better, and they're wrong. Okay, Harry, I don't want to direct too many questions at you for this segment. I want to keep it kind of open.
Yeah.
I'm happy to let you go where you want with it, but are there any male role models you think are
It's
particularly good
interesting that you
examples?
mentioned Aragon, because you think of the guy that plays him, Viggo Mortensen, is a fantastic human being and fantastic man. Some of the campaigns that he stood up for and some of the things that he's done with his platform, I think, have been very admirable. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Daniel Sloss, the comedian, that said, if you don't like the narrative around men, feel free to change it. And that's what I'd like to think that I try and do. And I think, again, I didn't even know it was International Men's Day until this morning when my mother shared something on Instagram. That was the only reason that I knew. And I think the fact that it doesn't get talked about much, unless it's International Women's Day or some sort of event that doesn't particularly focus around men. But yeah, I think I read a shocking statistic today that every year over 6,500 people will take their own lives, and 75% of those people will be men. And more needs to be done to tackle those issues, and that's why it's vital that mental health support within the National Health Service is properly funded. I know that when I was very unwell for a period of my life, the only reason I was able to get the support and get better was because I could afford to go private. Had I been waiting for services like CAMS or other stuff, I don't know whether I'd be where I am today. And so I hope that that we see more action rather than just words within government, but on a ground level, on a grassroots level. I think it's just about challenging bad behaviors, also trying to promote good behaviors as well, and just just being a good person. I can't say that, obviously, as someone who was, I think I was about 17, 18 years old, like during the time of the Me Too movement, and I remember a lot of like the aggro during that, where it's like, oh, as men we can't do this, can't do that, and it's like I didn't feel as a man I had to change any of my behaviors. But that's just because I'm not a rapey dude, and I can't help but feel that's linked. I must say, on your point about the whole alpha male stuff being astrology for men, I was always under the impression it was actually the stock market that was our thing. But yeah, I just hope that more more can be done, and just just being open and honest, and not being afraid to open up when you're feeling low. That's like the main thing, I think, for me, that I've realized. I'm very grateful that in my life I have a very good support group around me, that are a mix, and just just being good, fundamentally good people, and not being knobheads. I think that's the main kind of takeaway I take from a lot of this sort of stuff.
Yes, I like the phrase feminism, the radical notion that women are people, which is
I know.
a fairly good way of summarizing it. But no, I honestly do think that a lot of the people who want to complain about men's issues, and men do face issues. Don't get me wrong; they face issues largely because of patriarchy. Um, I think a lot of people who complain about that, they don't want to change the system. They just want to want women to shut up and stop complaining
Yeah.
about their issues. They don't want to fix issues for men when there are real issues for men that we could be like
Well, I think
fundamentally
it's from a
changing.
young age, as men were taught to be in control. You have to be in control. You have to be a leader. You have to be seen to be doing something. And there are some times where you can't do that. And it's kind of a lot of the misogyny and overt sexism that you see in society, very similar to a lot of the racism and xenophobia you see directed towards immigrants, for example, where people are frustrated with their lives, and they've lost a sense of direction. They feel like they want a reason that their life is bleak. And you then get people that come along and say, well, actually, the reason that you can't get a job is because of immigrants, for example. Very similar to a lot of the stuff that is said around the sort of the incel stuff. Why can't I get a girlfriend? What's going wrong? It's like, well, it's actually not you that's the problem. It's actually women, because they're shallow, they're stubborn, they don't like you, and actually, that's not your fault because you're a morally reprehensible piece of shit. It's because because women just need to lower their standards a bit. And
Yeah.
I do think it's I see a lot of similarities, and I can only hope that people sort of break out of it. But maybe, sorry,
Yeah. I
astrology.
one of the strange things that I always thought was really weird was when people were like, and this was like the height of Andrew Tate's like scam thing. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called like the Hustlers University.
Hustlers
That was it.
University, yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, like at the height of his like pyramid scheme that he was running. People would often hit me with the retort like, "Well, what color is your Bugatti?" Because that was like his thing, and I always thought that is honestly the equivalent of like, let's say you and I were in an arcade and I was like on one of those claw machines, and like I'd already put like 20 pound coins in trying to get this iPad that was in the claw machine, and you were like, oh man, Ben, that iPad is not coming out of there, dude. Like, it's the claw's not even big enough to cover the whole iPad. It's like me turning around to you and go, well, what color's your iPad? It's like, man, you are such a loser, and you don't even get it. Like,
I mean, sorry, what arcades are you going to where there's an iPad in the claw machine?
I've been to some. I've been to some.
The most I've seen is like those Funko Pop dolls. That's I need to go to the ones that you go to.
Yes, I've been to some less more recently. Actually, I think people started stealing them. But actually, iPads are very difficult. Not that I've tried, but iPads are very difficult to steal because the security is really good.
Sort of the sort of the alpha male stuff, I do feel like some of it is kind of dwindling down, I guess, because a lot of these guys have realized they've made enough money off these people anyway, and they can still continue to do it in other ways. But also, I think because people are kind of caught on. I mean, the reason that Andrew Tate, for example, was probably one of the most searched people in like August 2022 was because there were parents who were going, "Who on earth is this guy?" Looking him up, reading all the stuff that there was to say about him, speaking to their kids, like, "Do you know who so and so is?" And then obviously that's where a lot of this sort of stuff has come from. And I think it's a good thing that obviously more of this stuff is being discussed in connection to him, because I remember when he was first becoming big, I just finished uni, and I remember looking at stuff. I remember friends of mine were like, "You need to check him out. He's got some good points." And I was like, "Where?"
Yeah, where are they?
The only stuff I'm seeing that I could remotely describe as good is just like very vaguely agreeable things. Like, yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. Like if he said like, "Oh, water is H2O," I'd be like, "Well, obviously, yeah, that's true." Like, it's just, And I think that's one of the most tiresome things about it. I think with people like that, it was a kind of maybe not a clever move, but almost like just putting out so many two pences in the world of how he thought things were going. So when you turn around and sort of disagree with him, it's like, well, look at this stuff that he said. Like, how can you not agree? But yeah, I mean, I just hope that more is done to sort of tackle this stuff, and we've obviously still got a long way to go. And I think that's why it's important as men that we do our bit to make sure that this stuff can't continue.
Yeah, and like to borrow some of their phraseology in terms of like who's helped more men, Zoran Mamdani is about to become the mayor of, I think it's one of the largest cities in the world, and he's going to implement a housing policy which will lower rents and make it affordable for what, thousands, possibly millions of people, including millions of men. Like how many men has he helped compared to Andrew Tate? I mean, Andrew Tate is being cucked by Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, but what
Zoran
colour
Mamdani is
is
like
Zoran's Bugatti? You know, swings and roundabouts.
true. What color is your mayorship, Andrew?
How many alleged sex crimes does Zoran Mamdani have compared to Andrew? You know,
True.
How many court cases has Zoran Mamdani been involved in? You know, it's just fucking hell, what a loser.
Yeah,
Andrew Tate's very clear as the loser, not Zoran Mamdani. He actually wins something. It is. Yeah,
absolutely. I fundamentally agree. We should go to our producer for some comments. We have Curtis on the line, I believe.
Hello, sorry about that. I put up Harry on there. One man band.
Yeah, I'm Curtis now.
Yeah.
I'm going to get interrupted by GB News presenters.
Don't. It's not fun. This is a really interesting conversation, actually. It's one of them podcast sort of stories where you can speak for about 3 hours. What I'm going to do is going to go through the super chats, and then I'm going to do comments in reverse order so we can continue this conversation about men, given it's International Men's Day. And by the way, I was the same, Harry. I didn't know it was International Men's Day until Ben decided to make that as a story of the show, and I was like, "Oh wow, okay, interesting."
By the way, you don't have to answer now, but if you can think of a male role model, positive masculinity example, it could be someone in your personal life. If you want to go for it, Curtis, please do let us know.
Yeah. Let's go through the super chats. Specs here again with 5 turn left memberships, much appreciated.
Thanks, Beck.
And I've got Leo Dominguez. I really hope I didn't butcher your name. With a £10 super chat, thank you. TDOR tomorrow.
Trans Day of Remembrance.
Trans Day of Remembrance tomorrow. I would like to remind people that trans people are dying on waiting lists in the UK, with some clinics having more than 200-year wait. Use TDOR to voice your allyship. We need your voices. I thought it was really inspiring when we went to the Trans Liberation Rally. 20,000 people or 25,000 people turned out, and we obviously covered it in a short amount of time. If there's anyone who's still on Twitter, I don't recommend it, and you see such poisonous opinions about trans people, just remember that normal people side with trans people and will be out there to defend you, not these weird, Tate followers and these sorts of people on Twitter. So I really appreciate that. But yes, I do want to do the comment section in reverse.
Yeah, I happen to know as well that Leo is a trans man, so he's got a lot of days this week where he's got things that are core to his identity being talked about and hopefully being talked about in a positive way.
Just a nice one. Jamie Alice says, all the guys that turn left seem pretty great, to be honest. Thank you.
You don't know Curtis very well.
Oh, thanks. I thought this was a really nice one from Becca A. My partner Matt is a top fella. You know, it doesn't always have to be someone famous. It could be someone close to you in your life.
Exactly.
So I'm sure Matt is a top fella. This one just made me laugh. Jim Speak. Personally, I fuck real men for breakfast. That was a corker. I couldn't not do that one.
Amazing.
And Zeke CDB says, gonna share this section on Blue Sky. I think it's a wonderful segment. Yes, please do. Download this, rip it off YouTube and make a clip and put it on. Put it on Twitter, put it on TikTok, Instagram, put it everywhere, right? Don't just put on Blue Sky. You can clip whatever you want from the show.
Yeah, tag us so we can share it on whatever platforms you put up there.
Again, Jim, with actually some very good advice. Get your bums checked, boys. Yes, we need to go and check our bits. I think he also said get your testicles checked. Again, it's good advice.
Yeah, genuinely.
I thought I starred more comments than I did, to be honest. So I'm sort of trying to go back through.
That's all right. Have a look through.
Because I'm wondering if I don't know if I put enough
not budget
on the International Men's Day section. I can just say this though. I mean, I think I've mentioned it before, but I know when I was younger, I had some probably quite reactionary opinions. I was certainly of the whole third wave feminism. I was against that, and I was very much in tune with like hating on SJWs, which is social justice warriors. And it's very funny how the right wing always use that picture of that woman in despair when Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election. It's been 10 years, guys. Use a different image, right? Shows they haven't got anything else. But like, I was very much encapsulated in that because I was literally like 10 or 11 years old, maybe younger. I wasn't confident in myself. And then there was sort of this explanation like, oh, it's not your fault. It's the fault of women. And you can see how like incel behavior is all down to lack of confidence, lack of love of the self. I mean, the whole point of sort of being a positive male role model is literally men telling other men to love yourself, not hate yourself. And I think hating women is a form of self-loathing for men because it comes from a place of lack of confidence. I also saw something really interesting, which is why there's more male crash outs than women, because typically anyway, women will have a support network with their friends outside a relationship. They'll build that for themselves. Whereas men don't do that. It's basically we'll have a support network through our partner, but if we don't have a partner, a lot of the time we don't reach out to our mates. Even if we do, it is literally, even though we speak about like positive masculinity, how often do men really sit there and talk about their feelings? And not in a way where it's like, oh, I love you, man, or where you're a bit pissed and you have a you have an in-depth conversation, but like generally like a day-to-day conversation or a weekly conversation, checking in on your male friends. How often does that happen? Not a lot. So what happens is when men get into relationships, they may sort of calm down, they may become less of a dickhead, but then a lot of their own issues are then exported onto women. And they have to carry the double labor, the double load of dealing with their own issues, but also their boyfriends or husbands' issues where their entire life haven't any other connections, and then women end up becoming sort of their therapist. And I thought that was really interesting, something I haven't thought about before, because I do think a lot of times there are men who can go down a dark path and almost come out sort of, there's a light at the end of the tunnel when they find a relationship. And usually you hear from friends and family say, oh, you need to just find a lovely, nice woman and you'll be sorted out. And you think that's so harmless, but actually what that kind of tells you is a man has found a woman who's, willing to listen to their problems, which is great. You should share that. But you got to remember the emotional labor that comes from women who have done the work by finding support networks from other people, and men haven't done the same. And then we just dump a lot of issues on our partners. I thought that was interesting. I can't remember who said that. It was a TikTok video, to be fair.
Well, there's a quote that could summarize it's from RuPaul: if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? So it's kind of a similar sort of idea. And yeah, you're completely right, Curtis. What he said was really interesting, and was you completely 100% correct. And I think until you can be confident and assertive in yourself and have that self-belief, how can you possibly convince other people that you are that you feel that way?
Yeah, it's like a lot of our problems come from, like, our house is getting pretty warm. The fire is spreading to our house, and if we don't put out the fire that begins it all, which is like the historical suppression of women and they're then being forced into those gender roles, it's almost impossible for us to be able to sort out the issues which men face. If we don't put out the fire in our neighbor's house, we're never going to be able to stop our house from catching fire or worse, right? Like I really think that like as you were saying, Curtis, like if men don't build those support networks, it does fall on women. So liberating women is obviously the goal, but there are massive benefits to men as well, huge benefits to men.
Jim coming in with for me, it's International Ben's Day.
Nice.
I loved your brilliant analogy about Zora Mandani, who by the right wing will be seen as sort of a cuck, feminist, and I mean in a negative way. And I love how you say, well, materially, he's going to make people's lives better through cheaper rent, for example. What the fuck has Andrew Tate done? Andrew Tate has taken your money and said, and Tate, right? Andrew Tate has literally said that mental health is bullshit. You're a pussy if you're depressed. And he literally says, you're losers. Give me money. How does that benefit men? It doesn't.
I guess it's because of the what he promises at the end. If you follow my course, if you follow what I do, you're gonna be like me. And you're like, why would I want to be an accused human trafficker? You know, out of all the things I want to be, when I grow up, I want to be a footballer. Don't want to be a human trafficker. You know, it's but my football career is over. Did my knee in. I think it's just bullshit. These people, and I think the more people kind of obviously they need to be challenged, but also like just laughing at them as well. Like, they hate being laughed at. Like I don't know if you've ever seen, but like whenever like Tate will tweet something, and someone will like post that image of him where he's like that.
Yeah, the chin
That's the
is
one.
Like, he's got like no fucking chin,
chin,
or like
Yep.
it, like just the whole thing. But also like at the same time, like I don't think this is very helpful. But like a lot of time, it's like the way that he presents himself and acts. It's like he's behaves like he's very closeted. Like I don't know. And it's just kind of like everything that he does, even though he's trying to be like hyper masculine and really like it comes across as being very
free. Just be
very
free.
like camp.
Well, actually, should be free
kind
in
of that's the
prison.
word I'm
Yes.
looking for.
I know what you're saying. We got Edward Sexby, and this comment really spoke to me. Nerd. So obviously this is when you were banging on about Lord of the Rings, and as soon as you said that, in my head, I had the Simpsons, I had Homer Simpson go nerd, and then I saw that comment. Sorry.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I totally get that. I thought it would have come during the Arcane section, to be honest, but like,
What the fuck is
I'm so
Arcane?
used to you talking
I was
about
there.
Arcane,
I was just
though.
like, what is this going on about?
so good. It's so good. It's got like an Israel-Palestine dynamic to it as
I
well.
know, but you seriously need to start getting paid because you're basically promoting the show now. I mean, are you sure you're not getting paid from PR?
People behind the scenes won't realize when Navarra's Stephen Methan last came on, I was in the background and I was just flicking through my phone, and I was like, and it was silent for a minute, and then I was like, I'm going to recommend Arcane to Stephen. So I started telling Stephen how good it was, and it's an amazing show. But we're off topic, way off topic. Let's get on with the comments.
I started this, but I can't remember what it was in relation to. Not the Curtis slander. We love you, leader.
Oh, I think it was about something like maybe Curtis can afford to pay people that like pay attention to stuff. I think. That's
The Curtis slander because you've clearly never met Curtis. You don't get over Curtis that well. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. At least got someone
sticking up for you.
Let's talk about Trump. Adam Law, and this is funny actually. Adam Law said this comment at the exact same time as Harry. And at the exact same time as me thinking it, we have a little trifecta of hive minds, which is absolutely true. The Epstein files is going to be heavily redacted. They're not going to. It's turkeys voting for Christmas, right? They're not going to vote for an unredacted document. So, unfortunately, I think the files are going to be released. Trump is not going to be anywhere in it. He'll be in the black market where it's covered, but it's going to be a whitewash, isn't it?
Well, I don't entirely agree. I think that actually the thing is like everybody will just assume that any blacked out bits say
they would.
Trump was here fucking children. Like I think that will be the assumption.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to like get away with it, but what I'm saying is they're not going to print out the documents, which it literally says that Trump was there. They are going to have it redacted. Obviously, most sensible people are going to be like, well, you know, prominent Republicans are in there and Trump's in there.
But the thing is, when you read these emails, as I said earlier, it's not even like they're talking in code or anything. They're literally like saying very explicitly like what they were doing. So if they some of them are submitted redacted, it will literally just be like just loads of black bars going along a screen, and it will just be what would be the. And also, again, I feel like people have very short attention spans, and I feel like if they do release it, it will still it will obviously have a lot of momentum and a lot of people will be talking about it. But like I said, by this time next year, he's still going to be the
I
president.
don't know. Don't never underestimate the power of calling somebody a nonce on the internet. Like,
I mean, that is very true. I mean, like Kendrick and Drake, obviously a very, very good example.
yeah.
But also, I mean, like with
that.
Musk as well, like he kind of got this whole ball rolling when he mentioned Trump's name. Very, very. It is a very English thing to do, isn't it? Someone you disagree with, accusing of being a paedophile.
The thing is, though, what Ben was sort of saying earlier is it's not necessary enough to bring him down. Is ironically, MAGA care more about the fact that Donald Trump may or may have not done fellatio on Bill Clinton rather than him being a paedophile. Like that offends them more.
Yeah, the
which
idea
really
that
shows
Trump might have
what-
been gay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
did you see the White House, like the day that came out? The White House, you know what I'm talking about, Harry? They tweeted like a picture of Trump
Trying to
and
beat the
Melania.
allegations, just loads of photos of him with Melania.
Yeah,
It's
just like, I can't help falling in love with you with the music symbols and stuff. Like, he's not gay, please.
It's the most online government of all time, most terminally online government. Like JD Vance isn't even like piping up, and like that's how you know it's bad. Because usually, like when he's like my favorite Twitch streamer, it's like you shouldn't be.
Yeah,
involved
you
in
shouldn't know who these
streamer
people
stuff. Like,
are.
you're the vice president. You're
Yeah.
a grown man. Like grow up. But yeah, no, I just. But even still, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the Republicans won in 2028, because they can't go, well, we weren't in the Epstein files. It's like, yeah, but what actually are you going to do for the country? Because not being a paedophile is a pretty low bar. I like to think.
Spec said this isn't what I meant when I said I wanted more bisexual representation. Exactly.
True.
I was hoping for a bit better than this, but this
Yeah,
is
what's
what
Pete
the sort of
Buttigieg going to do? Like, he can't have the title as the first gay president.
He won't be able to, no.
Yeah.
But we also can't say
that's the real victim in all of this. In this whole story between Trump and Clinton.
Graham says, I didn't see you at the Warhammer shop in Leeds yesterday, Curtis. You'll never see me there. You will never see me at Warhammer. Come on, man. Come on.
I've stood outside Warhammer shops for like hours while people went in and negotiated prices and stuff. I can't. It's the one bit of nerdy culture that I've never been able to get into.
My brother, I think, was quite into Warhammer at some point, but like he'd never actually been to the store. And I think my parents took him to the store and he was there for about 10, 15 minutes. He's like, I don't want to do Warhammer anymore. And it was probably the best decision he made at the age of 9.
Financially, yeah, that makes sense.
Zeke again says this section on immigrants was so good. Thank you. We had a really long section on immigrants. It was really, really good. An actual robust. It was best. Robust conversation, and also tackling a lot of the myths when it comes to immigration. I know there is a lot of pressure to be anti-migrant in this political landscape, but I think it's important that we hold the fort on it. I have no issue, by the way, having conversations and debate on immigration. I sometimes listen to people who are a bit more critical on immigration on the left, and I listen to it and I find it very intriguing, even if I don't agree. But I think inevitably the conversation around party leaders, for example, Zach Polanski holding firm on immigration, one could say he's out of step with the majority of people, which is true. Us leftists, when it comes to immigration, are out of step because the majority of this country do want to see immigration come down. However, I think it's important that a party leader who's polling 17% from YouGov is not allowing the Overton window to move to the right. We need some kind of political figure to defend immigration. And I think even if you want to see immigration come down but are concerned about where Labour are going, where Reform are going, I think we should all be thankful, regardless of where you stand on immigration, that Zach Polanski is speaking up for migrants, because it's important to have that counterweight. Because if we don't, then there is literally no prominent political figure that is willing to say good things about immigration.
And also notice with Zach Polanski that he's stayed morally and ideologically consistent since he announced his leadership of the Green Party. And his motion has only gone up. It's almost like when you stand for something and you defend it robustly, people like it. And people want to join the Green Party. I joined the Green Party because of Polanski, as I know many other people have. There's a reason that the membership has doubled. Probably even like it will probably be maybe even more than that. It is it's insane what has been able to be achieved. But I think what that shows you is that people want the alternatives and people are looking for that. and hopefully that motion can continue. I just saw a comment saying, "Don't be hobby snobs." Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
Hobby snobs.
Hobby snobs. Oh, with regards to Warhammer. Yeah.
Hey, look, this is just my freedom of
Yeah,
speech.
that
to
was
say
that
this
wasn't
sucks.
on. That wasn't.
Don't worry, you can take the piss out of my hobbies because I got some embarrassing hobbies. I think you started a discourse actually, and actually you may have created a new minority for us to hate. Pink fluffy socks are the new gammons because obviously Ben, you brought up. No, sorry, Harry, you said
Yeah.
media talked about pink fluffy socks. We'd be hating on them. I think you've now started something where we know how to protect the pink fluffy socks community.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I just pink. I think I said it in the video a couple of days ago, but I was like, couldn't think of something like what would it be, and I thought I need to think of something absurd. And I was like, pink fluffy socks. I mean, like I'm not really a fan of them, but I think that's just because I don't like wearing like super thick socks, and also just because of like I feel like you're just gonna get a lot of static.
And they take a lot. They're taking all the jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah, there's a reason that when you see people going into work that taking your jobs, they've all got pink fluffy socks on. Yeah, collar around your neck. What about that collar on your mind, brother? You know, it's no, people need to wake up.
Adam here, Adam Law again, with supporting your suggestion, Ben, where MPs should have their expenses or assets taken. They're in far better conditions and in a far better situation than asylum seekers. So they're really concerned about penny pinching. Why not go after MPs' expenses?
Yeah.
I would like to see them do that. It's like the same with like the whole second jobs thing. If an MP wants to take on a second job, that's fine, but the amount they earn from that second job should be deducted from their MP salary.
I think it should be completely banned in certain circumstances. I think in public service it shouldn't. Like I absolutely support the idea of an MP being a nurse. I mean that's happened. That happened through COVID. I think it was
Dr. Rosina
Khan, Nadia Whittam, I believed. So that's great, but also if you're an MP and you also got like a job, is sort of in the private finance.
I love that idea, Harry. The idea that you like take away the amount they earn from their second job.
They're in the minus,
from their MP's wages. But yeah, Nigel. I just had an image of bailiffs like breaking into Nigel Farage's house and taking his TV and just being like, "Sorry, mate.
Sorry, your MP's wage is actually less than what you're getting on your 7."
Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous? Literally, like being an. It's just like it's like when I meet people, they're like, "Yeah, I'm a teacher," and I'm like, "You're a teacher?" Like all this other stuff they do is like, "Yeah, I'm a qualified teacher." It's all fairs. With Farage, it's having a TV show on GB News. Yeah, that is a very good point, actually. Rishi Sunak would be buggered as well, wouldn't he?
Jim's speak, though, they don't need expenses. They should be fiscally disciplined and live within their means. Haven't we heard this for the last 10 years? We heard it through the Cameron years. We heard it through Rachel Reeves. We're always told, us working class stupid folk, that we need to be tightening our belts, whilst at the same time, the millionaires and the trillionaires and the gazillionaires are absolutely fine. So I think that MPs should also start sort of doing the walk rather than just the talk. And if they, I think if MPs like vote for war, you send your fucking kids to war then you think differently. When it comes to this, well, maybe you should start doing that. I mean, Rachel Reeves, the one who's so fiscally disciplined, like completely maxed out like 3 different credit cards. She's not even fiscally disciplined. So
isn't she the same person that said that she was doing like her family's accounts at like the age of 9? It's like, how shit were your parents at maths?
Yeah, exactly. That's not an endorsement. That's
either it's a lie or like it's just like a real damning indictment of your parents' mathematical abilities. But yeah, no, it's just I just can't stand them. When is the budget actually? Because I thought it was
end of November.
End of November.
Really interesting one.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting.
So we're going to talk about asylum seekers now. Hayori says it's not a deterrent. Nobody has a bag of gold rings. I don't know who that MP was. Who you had from that Sky News clip.
Labour careerist number 4.
Labour careerist number 4, right? Because they're all the same. Saying, well, look, we're not talking about wedding rings, but some people might bring bags of gold rings. Who the fuck is an asylum seeker bringing a bag of gold rings, and even if they had a bag of gold rings, you do realize they have to pay to get here. So they would have sold those bags of gold rings in order to make the shores of the UK.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
even if they didn't,
Absolutely insane, these people.
They've come from Sudan via where Sonic the Hedgehog cuts about, and that's how they've got the bag of gold rings.
like,
But it's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
As Ben said earlier, who's walking around with like a BMW under their arm? It's
who's getting off a dinghy with that? But like also, like with regards to the bag of gold rings, like there might be one asylum seeker with a bag of gold rings. There might be a guy who what did he say? Like gets paid £900 a month for a BMW or something ridiculous like that. Those people might exist. I doubt that they do exist, but those people might exist. If they do exist, it is literally not worth the government's money
Yeah.
to go after them because there are so few of them. Like
actually,
literally
guys,
more
if any of
expensive.
you are interested, if any of you are looking at like what job you want to do, get into human rights law because there are going to be so many cases to take up, and there's going to be a lot of money going your way.
Well,
It's just like I mean that's like when I look at this sort of stuff, I'm like, if I was a human rights lawyer, I would be like, look, don't worry, like we can have the kitchen redone because there is going to be so many cases. There are going to be so many cases going forward, and people are going to want to have their rights stood up for. And so, and I hope that does happen because again, the asylum bill is just going to increase. And I think it's like with this government and previous governments obsessed with like means testing. It's like where you think you're saving money in one area, you end up spending it in another. And again, I would like to reiterate the point about the ring situation. Shabana Mahmood, coming from a British Pakistani background, knows full well how significant gold in particular is to South Asian communities and other communities from a similar region. She knows how significant those kind of objects are to people, and so the fact that they're being taken away is despicable. And the other thing I would say is the Scottish writer Neil Ackerman, he wrote, the way that a government treats refugees is very telling of how they would treat their own citizens if they could get away with it. And you know full well that I would not put it past this government if they turned around to disabled people and was like, right, you've got to start giving up some of your valuables in order to start paying. Yeah, I mean, all people and pensioners in this country already have to do that when they want to pay for their social care, when they're in care homes. You have people that will take their belongings down to the pawn shop so they can get cash, so they can buy their kids food, and then hopefully earn enough to buy those possessions back. It's just. It's performative cruelty. And I can't believe that's the first time that term's been mentioned, but it is so performative. We talk about performative males. Performative cruelty is there. And
that's my point, Harry. I mean, I think it's not to do with cost. They'll say it's about cost and saving money. It probably would cost more money to do this, but it is about performative cruelty. They want to show that they are harsh and strict.
They're being tough
to these people that just fundamentally hate refugees. And to those that hate refugees, I mean, they don't care about the cost. In fact, people like Rupert Lowe would rather pay more money. I mean, he's like, well, I'll pay for immigrants to leave. So he's not concerned about the finances. It is about being cruel, and that's it. And the thing is, though, all right, when it comes to immigration, which is a separate issue, I absolutely accept that we live in a country where the majority of people want to see immigration come down. I am not offended that a social democratic party in Labour, for example, will say we're going to have controls on immigration. But I disagree with it, but that doesn't offend me because I understand the situation we're in. Asylum seekers, though, and refugees are literally the tiny, tiny percentage of the population. It doesn't cost us much money. It really isn't making a negative impact. I mean, I don't think immigration has a negative impact, but it has impact. I don't think that asylum seekers really make much of an impact. So them suddenly turning their furor to them is, again, about showing how mean they are, not about recovering the finances or bringing in money. It's got nothing to do with that. And the thing is, though, the way that people... Oh, God, I wish we had better class consciousness in this country. People need to understand refugees, asylum seekers, and working class immigrants are working class like the rest of us. The elites don't really care if they are going to attack the white working class or refugees. They attack you because of your class. So where Harry's absolutely right, the way governments treat immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers is how they would treat the working class and the white working class if they could get away with it. And guess what? Once say reform get in, once they're done with asylum seekers and immigrants, they're going to go after people on universal credit. Not like that hasn't happened before. I mean, the Labour Party cut disability benefits, right? But they're going to hammer them, and they're going to hammer the white working class. And if you're a white working class person thinking, well, you know what, it's just all those other people, they're coming for you too. That's how it always works. It's about your relationship to power. This government and reform government care far more about brown and black billionaires than they do about a white working class person, right? The idea that you think politics is tribal based on your race, based on where you're born, your ethnicity, your religion, right? The elites don't give a fuck. They use it as a tool to divide you, but ultimately, even like someone like Elon Musk, who I think is a Nazi, would still care about a black billionaire more than he cares about the white working class, because they hate you based on your class.
Yeah, true. I was trying not to laugh a little bit there, because at the beginning of that, what was a brilliant speech, you did say that they're turning their, I think you meant turning their furore or turning their fury,
yeah.
and you accidentally said they're turning their furor on the on the immigrants, which
Well,
you're not
kind of
wrong. They are.
Yeah, not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just caught that one. I couldn't help laugh at that one. Are there any more comments you want to go through?
Just going to quickly go through them. I mean, this is basically echoing what we were all saying. Why can't we treat billion like this instead? Apparently, the PM at the time of, the Denmark policy of taking jewelry, apparently this come out and said they regretted it. I don't think Labour are going to go through with this, by the way. It's just a mere fact that they've said it. It shows that's on their mind. I thought this was really important interjection from Becca. My Holocaust surviving grandparents brought a small bag of gold coins from Germany. It was all they had left from whole lives and families they built over generations. We used to look at them and listen to the stories as children of surviving when their families didn't. So, okay, they might say you're not going to take wedding rings, but even if it's something that it's not even in terms of monetary value, has a lot of value,
And actually,
but means something to your friends or family.
I was going to
the
say,
idea we could take off of them.
the Holocaust, that rings and jewelry are still being handed back to this day.
Wow.
Because of how much was stolen. I mean, I like with the gold that was melted down for ingots. I think in 1998, an independent Swiss commission estimated that in the Swiss National Bank, they had $440 million worth of Nazi gold. Today, that's equivalent to about $8.5 billion. And over half of that was believed to have been looted from the victims of the Shoah. It is, and the fact that we have a government that seeks to obviously not treat refugees in the same way that the Nazis treated the Shoah victims, but obviously the fact that they would even try and dabble with a policy that has so many negative historical connotations is incredibly bleak and dark. Shame Gary Lineker hasn't called out, actually. I would have thought he would have been all over that. But
I thought we're leaving that comment. I didn't realize this is an extra long show. It's been an hour and a half, and I think it's probably salient to leave it on that very helpful comment, especially when some people say, "Oh, why does everyone compare everything to the Nazis?" And it's like, well, maybe stop doing policies that were very similar to them. It doesn't mean that Labour are going to start, gas chambers or anything, but like, if it was a policy of fascist Europe to take people's belongings, and the Labour Party are speaking about it, like, don't shoot the messenger who's simply bringing that up.
Who decides what a family heirloom is as well?
Right.
Like, those gold coins that Becca mentioned, they're family heirlooms. But there's no reason why the Home Office would recognise that as the case. Like I can't see a way that would be implemented. Just seems insane to me. Sorry, Curtis, you were trying to end the section because we have done a really long show.
It's apologies, especially for a Wednesday. So I'm going to hand it back to Ben. Thank you to your comment.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it. And thank you very much for coming on, Harry. You're fairly regular on here now. But in case people don't want to wait for the next show, and it might be a while, don't want to wait that long, where else can they find your takes?
So I'm on TikTok predominantly under the Champagne Socialist, also on Instagram as well, the same name. I occasionally appear on podcasts, obviously doing stuff like this with you guys on Turn Left. I'm on North Star as well. Haven't done any TV work yet. They haven't reached the bottom of the barrel just now. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. So if you're interested to hear me speak a little bit more in my bedroom, yeah, come please and follow.
Well, I always am. So
I appreciate it.
yeah.
It's very kind of you.
Honestly, we have the best chats. I love it. And with that, please don't forget to help us out if you can, whether that's monetarily or just by liking and sharing the video. Sending love out to you all as ever. You've been watching Turn Left Media's Normal Island show with episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Have a wonderful evening.